Alright y'all, today we're going to be working on some ankle mobility, right? So for anybody with tight ankles, these are a few things that you can do to start to increase that range. Alright, so with tight ankles, we're going to want some sort of a test retest to make sure the intervention that we're using is making some sort of a difference, right? So for this one, all we're going to do, put one knee down, opposite foot kind of lined up with that knee, making sure you're pushing through the middle toe. We're just going to reach forward, see how far we can get that knee over that toe. So if you watch from the side, right here, just shifting forward, seeing how far we can get this knee over the toe without the heel coming up. Another common one that we can do, really easy, comes up in day-to-day life, we can go ahead and sit on our feet or on our heels. So sit on our heels. So for me, I have a fair amount of space here. It feels like my ankles are gonna blow up. Like this is just not a great position for me, right? So for that, I like to go ahead and grab a lacrosse ball, kind of put it in the tibialis area here, and we are just, so the front, the top 2/3, top 1/3, 2/3 area of that tibialis anterior, we're digging into that. Some of us are gonna have a really tough time with this, others not so much. So for me, this is one of the really tender areas. So I'm digging in. And then another thing we can do, right, is we can kind of just sit back on it, or we can kind of just lean forward on it, just get a little bit more pressure, kind of vary that pressure. Same thing on the other side. And then at the end, we're gonna wanna sit on the ankles again, or do the half kneeling kind of reach, just for a test retest. All right, another thing that we can do is we can take our AccuMobility ball, pretty common, some of you probably done this before, working on the gastroc, right? So driving into the gastroc musculature. We can go 2-1, we go 1-on-1. If we want more pressure, I go one at a time. Moving that toe, flexing, dorsiflexing, creating some range, right? We want to break up any adhesions, any tissue in there that is restricted. Also on the soleus as well. Or you could use a lacrosse ball if you want to get a little bit more movement on the whole lower leg area. Another thing we can do to increase our ankle range of motion is attack the retinaculum area. So the retinaculum is a band of tissue here, and for some people with injuries or ankle trauma, if you play basketball, you sprain your ankle a lot, things like that, this thing can get bound up in here. So we can go ahead and take the same tools, right? AccuMobility ball, lacrosse ball, whichever, and we can go ahead and place it right in the, I like to put it on the outer side. There's kind of a little divot there, right next to the malleolus and the top of the foot, the dorsal part of that foot. So you can take the lacrosse ball, kind of tuck it in there. Same thing like we were working with our anterior tibialis. And so from the side here, just go ahead and tuck it right there. And just sit back on the heels, right? So there's a lot of tissue, a lot of muscles that run under that retinaculum area. They can get bound up. And just want to search for any tender areas, any tender spots. Good, and so we can also take the AccuMobility ball. Maybe you don't want to roll around as much, just a little bit more stationary, a little more static. Same type of deal. So drive it in there, create some motion, rock back and forth, rock side to side, whatever you gotta do to loosen that thing up. And so the last thing we can do, and this comes a little bit more from like manual therapy type, right? So if you watch the post, you looked at the ankle ratios, right? What that looks like and what that's supposed to look like. And so just so you can see, I'll take the sock off. So you can go ahead and stabilize the foot, grab the heel. So after we've worked the calf, right? After we worked all that lower leg area, we warmed it up. Go ahead and grab the ankle with whichever hand, stabilize the foot with the opposite hand. We just want to rock that back and forth. And what we're doing is we're essentially creating space. So if you are feeling a lot of, bone on bone in here when you're doing ankle work, we have to create space. So if this is compressed, it's driving that bone, that calcaneus into the rest of the bones, right? And just jamming everything up. So think of like a bad car accident, someone in the back, hit someone, chain effect, all the way through the ankle. So we just want to loosen that up, mobilize a little bit. And if you do that consistently, you're gonna notice less impingement here, right? So less bone on bone action, and you're gonna notice a lot more range of motion.